welcome to the Art of Artisan. Today we're playing a bit of a Mimi deck. I'm not expecting to get a ton of wins with it, but I am expecting opponents to say nice to us with the emo. So the core of this deck, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take a Carrion Grub, which gets plus X plus 0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in our graveyard, and we're going to have a Titanith Rex in our hand. Now we can cycle Titanith Rex at instant speed to turn Carrion Grub into an 11/5 trample. So this combo of Titanith Rex and Carrion Grub is just super powerful. It's a 2-turn clock and it's got trample. Carrion Grub dodges a lot of removal, being 4 converted mana cost and having 5 toughness. So this deck actually is semi-resilient, but the fun part of the deck, where it gets really spicy and maybe a little bit too memey, is Graveyard Shift. Graveyard Shift is a reanimation spell that has flash if we have 5 or more mana values among cards in our graveyard. And if you look at our deck, we've got 4 1-drops, 6 2-drops, 4 3-drops, 4 4-drops, 5 5-drop, no, 6 5-drops, 1 6-drop, 4 7-drops, 3 8-drops, and 4 9-drops. And then 14 0-drops. And then we've got a decent amount of mill from Stitcher Supplier, Undead Butler, Eccentric Farmer. So we are going to be filling our graveyard fairly quickly and getting Graveyard Shift as our backup plan to reanimate a Titanith Rex. Now, as weaker versions of Titanith Rex, we have Void Beckoner, which is an 8/8 Death Touch, and Greater Sandworm, which can be cycled. That's the main value of these, is we can just dump them into our graveyard and draw a card. Which means despite our curve looking absolutely abysmal, we do have a decent number of turn 2 plays with cycling these cards. We've got a bit more reanimation with Back for More, which notably is an instant seed cell, and Diregraph Rebirth, which if we mill it, we can use to reanimate something. Reclusive Taxidermist in the deck to speed up our game plan just a little bit with the ramp, and it's often a 4/4 in this deck. And that is Carrion Grub Reanimator. This deck, I love it. I played this when it was in standard, like without a lot of the cards that I currently have, but I played a Carrion Grub deck in standard with Titanith Rex, and it was absolutely hilarious when it went off, but it didn't go off that often. So let's see if it does a bit better in Explorer, where we've got more consistent mill, and let's get to the games. Alright, game 1 versus Mog007. 007. And we've got a pretty sketchy hand. This is a really bad curve. But we do go first. We can dump one of these in the graveyard and reanimate it. Hopefully draw something else. You know what? We're going to keep the slow hand. We'll see if the slow hand works out here when we get to go first. Opponent on some green-white build. Oh, sweet. That's a great draw. Alright, we're going to just cycle Greater Sandworm on our opponent's end step. And now we actually have 2-drop. Well, turn 2 play into turn 3 play into turn 4 play. Oh, shoot, Angels. Okay, well, Angels are going to be a bit tough. We do not have good answers to Flyers, and they will snowball better than we can reanimate. That is a good draw, though. Okay, I'm trying to think what order we need to sequence everything. I think we're going to cycle Titanith Rex and throw away the chance to get the trample on the Carrion Grub, just because we can reanimate it with Diregraph Rebirth. And that seems, having a trampling 11/11, it seems like that'd be something that our opponent would struggle to deal with. Although, having a trampling Carrion Grub, well, we wouldn't be cycling Titanith Rex fast enough to get Carrion Grub to get trampled when I want. So we will just drop Carrion Grub and get ourselves an 11/5 and mill lands. Okay. Our deck is looking pretty heavy on lands for being 24 land deck. And this is removal. Yep. Okay, Carrion Grub down. We are just going to reanimate this turn. Give us a Titanus Rex. And that's an 11/11 trample. I'm not scared of Righteous Valkyrie at this point, because I've got the bigger creature, and it just tramples through. Our opponent, do they have anything? They do have Valkyrie. Okay. Giada is a problem here. Our lack of interaction is really going to hurt us. Okay. We will swing him with Titanus Rex. If our opponent chooses to block with anything, we will cycle and give it Death Touch. And in fact, I think we're going to cycle now. Yeah, let's cycle and see what we draw. No, we won't. Okay. Titanus Rex hits for 11. We are not dead in the air. We have 2 life left over. We will crack a clue. See what we hit. Carrion Grub. Is Carrion Grub good here? I think yes, it's just the biggest threat we can get on the board. And if we top deck a Titanus Rex, then it's absolutely amazing. Opponent. And now we've got 2 threats, so our opponent does have to have 2 blockers. Ooh, Resplendent Angel. Okay, they're going to have enough blockers. And what do we got? Oh, yikes. Yeah, the life gain off of Valkyrie. I guess it did hurt. We've got instant speed reanimation, but we do not have everything we need to win. I guess if we top deck Titanus Rex and a second Void Beckoner, and the last one in the deck, I think, or actually I think we're out of number in the deck. Okay, so we have to cycle Void Beckoner, hit Titanus Rex. Please. Oh, never mind. This still won't do it. Oh, wait, no, it would. We would be 1 damage off. We would have exactly killed with Titanus Rex there. And we lose to Angels. On to game number 2. Yeah, this matchup, we're trying to do the combo deck strategy of just do bigger things than our opponent with reanimation. But in Explorer, there are decks that are more snowbally than ours. And maybe we should be running more interaction. I mean, our graveyard shift was at 6, so maybe we could fix our curve a bit and get a better graveyard shift. And like still be good with graveyard shift. But for now, we're just going to keep the deck list as it is and go to game 2. Game 2. Playing against Sketchy Sketchin'. Nice name. And we've got an all green mana hand, no reanimation, no Carrion Grub. We've got to mulligan that. This is better. We're probably just going to hit something to reanimate randomly off these mill spells. So we'll dump a Butler to the bottom. And opponent goes first. Okay, white-green. Hopefully it is not an Angels rerun. Don't want to face Angels again. Okay, there's a Diagraph Rebirth in the graveyard. Nothing else that matters. An opponent is counters. Okay. Can we race the counters deck? Probably also not. But we'll see. That's a Titanus Rex. Okay, that helps us a lot. No attacks. Hopeful Initiate. Okay. If they swing in, we happily double block. Yep, they realize. And here, I'm gonna just double Stitcher Supplier, I think. That gives us a more solid plan for blocking. Actually, no, Eccentric Farm is better for blocking, because we do have enough power to multi-block and kill something. Okay, and we need more forests. And pass to you, opponent. If they turn their Hopeful Initiate into 3/4, we triple block it. Or actually, we probably block the Conclave Mentor, regardless. Also, this is Human Counters. That is a unique deck that I have not seen before in Explorer. I like it. Mill 3. Mill 3. Opponent is light on lands as well. They are very landlocked. We could swing in with one Stitcher Supplier, but I think we won't. Pass to the opponent. Still no lands for the opponent, and they decide to just run out the Intrepid Adversary. Okay. Interestingly, Conclave Mentor only works with +1/+1 counters here, so Adversary wasn't as good as they may have been hoping. And our opponent's trying to go big. Let's go bigger. Titanithrex #1. And there will be more coming. No attacks. Your go, opponent. Best draw that we could get is Brought Back, the 6-mana reanimation spell that makes you fight an opponent's creature. Opponent playing a Johnny Greathearted. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Wow. But they still can't get in. Not against Titanithrex. That's not going to work out for them. And we draw Jungle Hollow. Okay. We're going to swing in with Titanithrex at a Johnny. See what the opponent does. They block. Wow, are they actually going to double block it? If they want it to survive, they need a triple block, though. Well, I guess it'll survive with one loyalty, but that's quite the sacrifice to make. And it's going to turn on Diregraph Rebirth. I think they just have to take it. Yep. And they do. Play a land. And we'll pass. Now the opponent can get in, but we will just massively block an Intrepid Adversary if they do. Anointed Procession. They have yet to make a single token, so that seems like a weird card in their deck. Yeah, they've got nothing that makes tokens that I can see. They've got only 1 mana held up, so I'm going to do the massive block here. And opponent, what do you say? Bonk, 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 bonk. We mill a gazillion cards. Undead Butler is last. No, doesn't matter. Take action. And what are we returning to our hand? Probably the biggest thing that we're not reanimating. We're going to reanimate a Titanithrex and a Greater Sandworm, so let's grab the Carrion Grub. Mill 3. Mill 3. Hit a sling. Okay, there we go. Another Titanithrex is great. Because now we just get to swing in with Titanithrex. Hit our opponent for 11. And Diregraph Rebirth, here comes another one. What say you to a second one, opponent? And there go. Graveyard Hate could be bad here. Oh, Rabble Rousing. That's interesting. So we do want to stop our opponent from wanting to get in. Oh, but wait. They're dead. That's game. They don't have any blockers. They shouldn't have tapped down their creatures for that. Yeah, that's good game. Oh, wow. So Titanith Rex, 11/11 trample. Good enough of a reanimation target for our opponent to lose. And there we go. Conclave Mentor is a triggered ability to gain them life, so they do not gain the life until they're already dead. And that is a 1-1 for Carrion Grub meme deck. Let's get to game 3. Game 3 versus Delnarax. And we've got all our colors of mana if Reclusive Taxidermist survives. That'll give us a turn 3 Carrion Grub. Let's go for it. Let's see if the Reclusive Taxidermist hand is worth keeping. More green mana, that's a little awkward. And our opponent's on another snowbally deck. Snowbally creature deck with Champion of the Parish. Ooh, green. Okay, I don't know what our opponent's up to. Oh, that's good. I think we still run out the Taxidermist in hopes of getting an early Carrion Grub. But our opponent is very incentivized to kill it. Okay, Tainted Adversary, that doesn't kill it. And swinging in. Okay, we take it. Sweet, our turn. So we're going to run out of Carrion Grub and Hope. Carrion Grub and Hope. Opponent. Also, these death-touching creatures are going to throw a huge wrench in our plans. Oh, sweet. Titanith Rex. Let's go. Death-touch creatures, kind of good against Carrion Grub. But our opponent doesn't seem to be doing much, and their hand is fairly empty. We've got Champion of the Parish locked back. We've got everything locked back. Wow. We can just reanimate our Titanith Rex. But we could also just mill a bunch and make sure we hit our next land drop. Let's swing in with Carrion Grub and see what happens. If our opponent blocks a lot, Diregraph Rebirth becomes cheaper. And if we're reanimating Titanith Rex, then Carrion Grub is about to get a lot weaker anyways. Okay, Tainted Adversary for block. 2 creatures die. Diregraph Rebirth costs 3. So we will cast it. We will grab our Titanith Rex. And then we will Undead Butler. And pass to the opponent. We've got a better board and the same amount of cards in our hand. And we've got a Diregraph Rebirth in the graveyard, which is really solid. 5 mana for the opponent. Eaten Alive. Getting rid of our Titanith Rex permanently. That was a good draw for our opponent. And they are going to let it pass to our turn. We're going to play this. What is the best creature in our graveyard right now? Eccentric Farmer. Alright, that's not going to work. So I think we're just going to... Oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to swing in with Undead Butler. Make our opponent think that we're just trying to get the death trigger, but it doesn't look too good right now. But then we're going to Void Beckoner to give it Death Touch. One nice thing about having all these like mill dorks in our deck is that we can give them Death Touch with Void Beckoner, and that really just ruins whatever our opponent might try to do. Okay, Void Beckoner. Put a Death Touch counter on Undead Butler. And we get through. Okay, Chevil's dead. We will take action, sure. And we will get back the Carrion Grub. Carrion Grub, I hear, is pretty good in this deck. And Reclusive Taxidermist, gonna let us cast this Eccentric Farmer. We will get back a Forest, I guess. And next turn we can just hard cast a Greater Sandworm, which should get around all the Death Touch shenanigans our opponent's been doing. Ooh, nothing. Nothing from the opponent. I think that means we actually take a turn off, because if Carrion Grub's going to get through, that's more damage over time. Dunk, 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 dunk. And Eccentric Farmer. Hit us a Titanothrex. Nope, okay. And we'll grab a Swamp. Our mana, we don't really care about colors anymore. So we're not going to go for Jungle Hollow. Opponent with Jadar. That's not that useful for our opponent here. And one advantage of this deck is if we ever get to the late game, then we can just start slamming giant threats every single turn. Just Greater Sandworm, into Void Beckoner, into Diregraph Rebirth for another Titanothrex. Just, we can really go at it. Boom, opponent takes it. I think our opponent has given up. Good game. Alrighty, we are winning so far with this deck. We haven't gotten to see the Graveyard Shift reanimation come through yet, but we're ranking up using Carrion Grub. Let's go on to game number 4. Game number 4. My computer was lagging out quite a bit, and I was worried I was going to misplay because of it last game. So I'm doing no webcam for the rest of this video. Alrighty, this is a solid hand, and we've got the Graveyard Shift. Let's see if we can surprise our opponent with an instant speed Titanothrex. Stitcher's Supplier. And there's one in the graveyard. And 3 mana values off of 3 cards. There is a lot of power to these cycling cards in a Reanimator deck with Graveyard Shift. It looks like we're playing against some sort of red-black aggro. Now we could cycle this Titanothrex on our Stitches Supplier. I'm actually expecting haste from our opponent for some reason. So I'm just going to leave this back to block. But I want to say Titanothrex to give Carrion Grub trample. And against red-black, oh, Mardu. Hero of Precinct 1. Okay, so our opponent, whenever they cast a multicolored spell, are going to get a token. There's some sort of Mardu multicolor deck. That's cool. We will just play out an Eccentric Farmer that can block Kumano. Our opponent swings in with Hero of Precinct 1. We might choose to double block it. Also, we're at 6, well, I guess only 5 now, mana values. This is not going to be very useful later. We'll leave it back just to threaten double blocking Hero. Really, this game is not going to be about killing our opponent. It's going to be about surviving until we get the big creatures down and stabilize everything. General Kud. Okay, so there are humans. Mardu humans. Oh, and they get to exile Titanothrex. Shoot. That's actually brutal. We will double block etchings. Trade one of our creatures for theirs. Oh, but General Kudro giving them the ability to exile something. Another human enters the battlefield. Luckily, oh yikes. Yeah, they're gonna get to exile our graveyard real fast here. And that's gonna shut us down. We will have the instant speed Titanothrex shenanigan though. Oh man, there's another one in the graveyard. It's gonna be gone very soon, but at least we have it there. That's the target that Kudro has to target if they want to survive. They also see we've got a Graveyard Shift in the graveyard, so they might actually play around it. We'll have to see, though. Okay, Dire Tactics. Oh, if I could sweep their board, that would be 11 damage to them. That would be fun. Oh, wait, no, it'd only be 5 damage. Exiling our creatures. We'll take it. Hero of Precinct 1 in a humans deck. That just interests me so much. I love it. We have Void Beckoner as our best reanimation target here. But we will reanimate whatever our opponent does not try. Whatever our opponent tries to exile. We'll just reanimate it in response. Tajik, Legion's Edge. Okay, so their creatures are now immune to non-combat damage. And he's got haste. That's actually pretty significant. Okay. We will immediately reanimate that. No exile for you, opponent. Okay, Greater Sandworm's in play. Opponent does not have... Oh, yikes. He may be dead very soon anyways. Void Beckoner down. Tajik gets to mentor something. And are we just dead here? I think we are. Yeah, we're dead regardless of how we block, because Tajik has haste. Okay, well played, opponent. And we are 2-2 with Carrion Grub meme deck. Opponent was just a little bit too wide of us this game. Let's go to game 5 and see if we get the winning record. Game number 5 versus Lueltry. We do have Titanothrax and Carrion Grub. Opponent is going first, and this is really slow. This is super slow. We got a mulligan for something with a little bit early game. Like this. This is good. Okay, Sandworm to the bottom. We've got one cycling threat to stick in the graveyard. We've got some mill. This looks just about perfect. If we can turn on these reclusive taxidermists, that will be fantastic for us. What colors are you playing, opponent? Black, and at least one other color. Red. We're facing Rakdos something. And if they look at our hand, they're probably going to take the Undead Butler. That seems like the best choice, just because we don't have any other way to fill our graveyard. But they really don't know what we're doing here, so that's good for us. Okay, they took the Sandworm, which we were going to be dumping out of our hand anyways, so we are fine with that. Your go, opponent. Mayhem Devil. That's what our opponent's doing. Okay, so they're just a Rakdos sacrifice deck. I think I want to turn on the Reclusive Taxidermist as fast as possible. So start with this. Hit 2 creatures, good. And then this, how many creatures? At least 1, please. Okay. Taxidermist is turned on. And that's going to be, oh, okay, opponent. Swinging in with the Mayhem Devil. We just have to take it. And land. And cycling a land. Draw a card. They probably should have done that on our turn, but whatever. Okay, well, we will drop another 4/4 blocker. And get in with these Undead Butlers. Might as well try to win the race. We have nothing going on here, though. This is really bad. Hitting a Carrion Grub would be nice. Oh goodness, another Fatal Push. Hitting Carrion Grub would be nice. Hitting any reanimation spell would be nice, except for the 6 mana one now. Hitting a land would be not nice. Oh, yikes. I don't want to leave these back to block, but I think I have to. Like, we don't get a block profitably, it's just a chump. Deadly Dispute. That kills one of our undead butlers. Gives our opponent some more cards. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, wait. Did they goof that up? Sorry. Oh, they messed that up. I'm sorry, opponent. Not too sorry. We're facing a fairly tier deck right now. Don't tell me it's a Cauldron Familiar in hand. Okay, Meat Hook Massacre. That I can deal with. That means they get in for 1 damage this turn. Alright, we will get back to Reclusive Taxidermists. That should be hard for our opponent to deal with. Reclusive Taxidermist. And Reclusive Taxidermist. And opponent passes to us. After hitting us, that is. Okay, Graveyard Shift. Oh, we are close on that one. We don't have a 2-drop in the graveyard, though, anymore, right? Do we? We do not. So if either of these dies, we turn on Graveyard Shift as a surprise goodbye Mayhem Devil. Alright, Taxidermists are coming through. Can we beat the tier-ish deck? Oh, yikes. Experimental Synthesizer is a great draw. Thoughtseize? They're going to fire it off? I mean, they probably just have to. Oh, that's so bad. We maybe should have just reanimated the Sandworm instead of going for double Taxidermist. I mean, we do get to block our opponent here and potentially get rid of their Mayhem Devil unless they just go crazy with sacrificing stuff. They could sacrifice this, then sacrifice a treasure, then sacrifice the guy to Witches Up. Gosh dang it. Alright, they've got Cat Oven online. Okay. Well, I think we lose now then. We can get in with 1 Taxidermist, cycle Titanith Rex, see what we hit. What say you to this, opponent? Okay, they block with the cat. They're going to sacrifice it to the oven. Ping our face for 1, because that's how Mayhem Devil works. Bonk. They get a food token. We are going to cycle this so that we still get 4 damage in, but our opponent's just going to gain so much life. That's so much life for our opponent. Graveyard Shift, off the top. Undead Butler. We can hope this hits Malakir Rebirth. That would be our best hit. We also can play down a Sandworm. Playing down a Sandworm could be actually a really solid play here. That could be one of the few things that can race this value engine. One other thing to note, I thought about doing this deck, Annoying Cat Oven deck with Mayhem Devil as my video for today, but I thought you guys have probably already seen this deck way too much, and the Artisan version is not actually that different. So I decided not to. Synthesizer. They get a Mayhem Devil, which they can immediately cast. And is that lethal? That is 4, 5. Okay, they're 1 damage away. Oh no, they're not, because Meat Hook Massacre. They have lethal on board. Let's see if our opponent's smart. We will return this and kill a Mayhem Devil. If they choose to not immediately kill us here, then we have a chance. Goodbye Mayhem Devil. Like, it's a very slim chance, but they do have lethal on board. Sacrifice. Oh, if they sacrifice the Mayhem Devil. Okay. Tiny, tiny chance. We have one turn to pull through. They can't sacrifice their Cauldron Familiar. Because their Witch's Oven is offline. Oh, but the start of their next turn they can. Yep, we're dead. Okay. Well, we lost to a really good deck. A fairly budget deck too. May have to do that next week. Let's get to the deck wrap up. Okay, I added on to the record all the games that I've done with testing and outside of streaming, and the deck did not work. Not really. We saw it go off a few times where we'd just start reanimating Titanith Rexes, but the Carrion Grub and the Graveyard Shift part of the deck, I don't think were worth building around. I think a more devoted early game mill and ramp strategy, and then just like only a few of these, along with um, Diregraph Rebirth over Graveyard Shift, cut the Carrion Grub, I think would be a much better deck. Just go Golgari Reanimator. Cards that overperformed, underperformed. Reclusive Taxidermist, we saw that last game was really solid. We didn't win the last game, but it really did hold our opponent back. So once again, the ramp plan. You'd want 4 of these, I think, in a future version of this deck. Void Beckoner, not super impressed, but I did want a very critical mass of big reanimation targets that could cycle. But this one, it cycles for 3, so I might just cut it down to, like, just remove it and just go for the 8 2-cost cyclers if I were to really try to optimize this. And then the last thing is I don't think we had enough removal. This deck does big things, but it does big things that are easy to interact with. It's definitely a best of 1 deck. I didn't even make a sideboard for this because if your opponent has Graveyard Hate, then our plan is literally just naturally hit land drops and start casting these big fatties. So, should you try this deck? I lean towards no. I think if you want to have fun with Graveyard Degeneracy, that playing with just a generic Reanimator deck, or maybe an Undergrowth deck, which I'll do in a few weeks once I have the wild cards. Always a problem. But I don't think you should play this deck. I did enjoy the reliving the dream with the Carrion Grub and Titanith Rex and having an 11-5 on turn 3 one of the games. Like, there's a lot of fun to that, but for now, we'll just leave this one on the back burner unless something crazy gets printed to help it out. And with that, thank you for watching the video, everyone, and I hope you keep enjoying the budget magic.